Okay, so I think we're good. Um,
Excuse me. Are you feeling okay?
huh? Yeah, I am, thank you. Please come in. I trusted this woman despite barely knowing her. She assisted me in coming to this room, and she was one of Diana's comrades, so I felt that I could put my trust in her. The woman nodded before stepping into the room and closing the door behind her. She turned to me and stood by the door.
I'm assuming Diana told you about the situation.
Yep. Yeah, I'll be back home tonight. That's the hope, anyway.
Yes, we sent our agents as soon as we knew what we had to gather. We're positive they will turn up before nightfall, and we'll be able to cast a gateway spell.
That won't work. I nodded and let out a small sigh. It would be a long wait, but it would be worth it if it worked. The woman, however, took a step forward.
May I ask you something?
I looked to the woman slightly confused. Sure, go ahead. What is it?
Well,
I watched as the woman reached up and rubbed one of her ears, almost in nervousness. What was she nervous about? Finally, she spoke up again, releasing her ear.
would you mind if I asked you about the human world?
Aw, the human world. Why would she be curious about the human world? She was a demon that looked like an anthropomorphic rabbit. The woman hugged her large staff against her body as she shrugged.
How are things like in the human world? Is there equality amongst your races? I've only heard stories, but since you're a human yourself, you would know.
Hold on, be right back.
How are things like in the human world? Is there equality amongst your races? I've only heard stories, but since you're a human yourself, you would know.
Mm-hmm. My mind ran my mind ran back to the social life of the human world, at least in America. We claimed to be equal, but we had major prejudice amongst our races, whether we liked it or not. I found myself to be on neutral ground, not wishing to be extreme on either opinion, but knowing the difference between what was morally right and wrong. I looked to the woman and shook my head, making her eyes widen slightly. We're not exactly equal. I mean, we try, but we're pretty divided, However, it's only one of many problems we face. The woman nodded before walking over and sitting down on the bed next to me.
I see. Are there major wars fought because of it?
In a way, we have marches and movements, but we at least try to not to escalate it to war. Where I live, it's better to resolve things without violence.
That's smart. I hope that equality can be found in your world.
Thank you. What about here? The woman shook her head. Her smile turned into a big grin. Turning a big grin. I could tell that things were rough here just from looking at her expression.
We have sort of a caste system here. What kind of demon you are determines what life you live. Demons of Lilith, like Diana, are usually royals and nobles, while animal demons like me are much, much lower in the ranks.
I could hear her anger and shame from just her voice alone. Were things really that bad here? That's horrible. I'm so sorry.
It's alright. That's why I joined the rebellion. We intend to make changes, make it better. I want to be part of that and help fix things.
There was a confidence in her words that didn't match the look in her eyes. Hold on. I'm sorry, I'm just really distracted right now. There's confidence in her word that didn't match the look in her eyes. She knew something was off and on what she said, but she expressed it anyway to reply to me. I didn't know whether or not to prod or keep silent. I wouldn't be here long, so I decided to keep my mouth shut. The woman shook her head out, as if she was scattering the thoughts from her mind, and looked at me.
So, you are getting married. You must be excited to get back with your family and soon-to-be partner.
Yes, I'm happy to get back with Sam. Huh? Oh, yeah, I'm excited to go back. For a brief moment, I nearly forgotten that I was getting married. My mind began to wander to the one who was waiting for me, making my heart ache. As I looked down at my lap, the rabid woman looked down as well.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you upset. But you will be home soon.
Mm-mm. I nodded. I shouldn't have let it get me down. So I was really thirsty right now. But I really did miss being in the human world. I think anyone in my situation would understand, especially since I was a bride. I looked at my hands, seeing my engagement ring, matching the wedding ring that would made a replica. Oh, made me ah. I looked at my hands, seeing my engagement ring, and imagining the wedding ring that was made for me, replacing it. Soon enough, it would be on my finger, and I would be able to continue living my life as normal. Pulling myself out of my thoughts, I looked at the woman as she stood and bowed to me.
Well, I shall leave you be. I will bring food whenever it is ready, so that you don't starve.
That's nice. Thank you. I appreciate it. Hold on. But I am rolling down my sleeves. It's really cold in my room. But it is -5 out, so yeah. With that, the woman left, leaving me alone in my room to wait. I remained in the room until the night came. I was given food which looked like soup. The woman who gave it to me apologized, letting me know that the food was scarce until the upcoming harvest, which was a couple days away. Being that I was only staying the day, I didn't mind much. I was more concerned over what I was given to eat. There you go, all nice and warm. It was some sort of stew with mysterious chunks swimming in its broth. It smelled surprisingly good, but who knew how it tasted? Refuse it. No. No way, no how. I was not in the mood to try out new things after what I had been through. And this was not something I wanted to try at all. I knocked rapped on my door, breaking me out of my train of thoughts. Huh? Come in. Diana. The door opened to reveal Diana with a plate holding things I recognized, bread and cheese. I let out a heavy sigh in relief before Diana laughed.
I suggest not trying that. As good as it smells, the taste would not sit well with you.
See, I moved the bowl to the nearby table, thankful I did not have to try it. Diana handed me the plate and nodded, reassuring me that what was on it was indeed what it seemed.
It's not much, but it's human food. Eat up.
I will. I began to chow down, feeling the hunger in my stomach dissipate with each bite and swallow. The food I was eating surprisingly was delicious. As I began to crave something to drink, Diana chuckled and formed a small goblet in her hand, filled with clear water that I assumed to be water. I took and drank it down, feeling my thirst quenched before I let a sigh. Ah, I feel so much better.
I can tell. Take a moment to finish eating, then we'll head for the ritual.
I looked up at Diana, suddenly excited. Everything was prepared for? Was it possible to go home now? As she read my mind, she smiled and nodded.
We finished the main preparations. We just need to head over and we'll start.
I couldn't continue. My mind went to an obvious frenzy that I wanted to go home. I stopped moving the plate and goblet to the nearby table. Let's go.
Huh? Are you sure?
I nodded, not wanting to waste any more time. I needed to get home and I was tired of waiting. Diana stared before nodding and heading for the door, opening it for me and exiting after me. As she closed the door behind me, I began to feel my heart flutter in relieved joy. I was heading home. Diana led me down the corridors to the war room, where I had originally arrived, to reveal the table covered in plants and artifacts of different kinds. None of it made sense to me, but I had only to assume it was what was needed for the spell to work. Diana walked to the table and took note of what she saw, nodding.
This should work.
You're in doubt?
Have to be after the last time we tried sending her home. Do we have a human anchor?
No, you're on your own this time. But we'll make sure you survive casting it.
This spell should work, however, because we'll be using energy material. It will only require a slice of your energy on top of these items, which your guard can refill immediately after this.
Just make sure you don't die casting it.
Diana smiled at her guard before turning to me.
So, are you ready to return home?
She didn't have to ask. I am ready. Diana nodded once more before turning back to the table. She lifted her arms over the surface and lowered her head, muttering under her breath.
O tenebris portas, afriat nobis, largiatur exidium, desiderium.
As she spoke, the table began to glow as she did. A dark purple aura began to surround her form. As she lifted and arched her head back, staring at the ceiling. A glimpse of her eyes made me gasp. Warm golden orbs covered her blood-red irises, glowing with magic. She was deep within the spell, and I could see it slowly draw energy from her body. The items on the table began to gleam wildly, light orbs floating from them and dancing in the air above the table's surface. They began to wave back and forth with each other, almost as if the lights were dancing to a silent tune. The other demons stepped back as Diana moved her arms up and pointed to the dancing lights. Her finger pointed into the air, leading the lights to follow were directly, obediently. She drew a large circle, blah, blah, blah. Bingo. And engulfed the room, but died down as fast, revealing a small tear in the air. Jenna quickly leaned forward and dug her hands into it before pulling the tear apart, revealing my bedroom. Jenna continued to pull the tear open, giving enough space for me to jump through.
Hurry and go through. This is your chance.
I wasn't going to let this go to waste. I gripped the bottom of my dress and rushed forward, using momentum to jump into the air forward towards the void. I could almost reach it. I could feel the air conditioning of my room right at my fingertips.
She will never leave this world alive!
And bingo. The Demon Lord's voice ran through the air just as I saw my fingertips pass through the tear. What stopped the rest of my body was a red light and force, forcing me and Diana back from the opening. I feel my body fly backwards and slam into the wall before I landed on the stone ground. I heard Diana as well land beside me with a painful thud. I looked up and felt my heart break as the tear became wrapped in red lightning, zipping itself closed and vanishing into thin air. No, this couldn't be.
That should have worked.
Damn it!
That should have worked. How could it have failed?
We must have missed something. Was there anything we had forgotten?
No. I verified everything myself.
Then why was the Demon Lord able to overpower a gate spell?
I highly doubt you know either, brute.
Stop fighting! We need to make a plan and all of you are just being stupid! Stupid, 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 stupid!
Are you all right, Isaiah? I'm fine.
I was lost in my mind to fully understand what was going on around me. I was so close. I felt the other side. I almost made it home. Why couldn't I go home? Diana's grunts of pain next to me made me shoot my head towards her. I watched her slowly push herself off the ground and glared at the table.
The Demon Lord must have done something more than simply bring her here.
What could he have done? Now, the Demon Lord is incapable of doing anything of the sort. His lackey imps must have done something to her.
A spell?
A curse.
I looked at the rabbit woman, seeing her stare wide-eyed at me. The other demons stared at me as well, and I felt like I was on display. Was something wrong with me?
She will not leave the demon world alive. He must have placed some sort of curse on her to prevent her from leaving this plane. In order to leave, she'd have to die.
I ain't dying on this bitch. What? My mind went blank. Did the demon lord really curse me? Was I forced to stay in this world until I died? I could never go back?
Are you suggesting a barrier curse? That would explain the red energy that sealed the tear.
But dark magic like that requires
Blood of 1,000 demons. He must have sacrificed part of his army to cast a curse on her that would prevent her from leaving.
The demon lord is that desperate for her. The only way to break that kind of curse is to kill the caster, the demon lord himself.
She's trapped here until this war is over.
My body began to shiver violently. The demon lord killed 1,000 demons just to trap me here? Why? Why? I slammed my fist into the ground and began to scream. I want to go home. Why? I could feel the sympathy and anger in the room, but I didn't care. I was beyond livid. I was far past broken. I was seeing red. No, just not gonna do that. As my voice ripped through the air, a bright light erupted through the room. Once again, everyone covered their eyes, but Diana quickly scrambled to get on her knees and cover me with her body. She held me tight as the light invaded the space and slowly began to fade away. As the light finally died, everyone moved their hands to see what had happened. Hey, I would have streamed earlier, but my boyfriend didn't come till like almost after 3:30 because he had swim practice and stuff, and it was amazing. He gave me chocolates and all this stuff, and I'm just like so happy. But it was a good. He gave me some chokers and a diary. I was so happy. And you got to meet my puppy. Speaking of which, I can hear him barking now. Lucky. In the air was a white tear that was slowly opening, facing down towards the table. Something was coming. I could feel it in the air. The guard summoned his spear and pointed it at the tear, glaring at it, gritting his teeth. You like chokers? Yeah. And of course my headphones died.
something's coming.
I do too. That's cool. In reply, Diana summoned what looked like a saber and placed it in front of us.
Ready yourselves. It could be the Demon Lord.
Hopefully you can hear this. I have like 10. Let's see. Hold on. I have 5. The other demons in the room readied themselves and stared at the tear, either holding a weapon or preparing a spell. I felt the air chains becoming heavier as the tear began to grow. Don't listen to them. The energy around it began to pulsate, making everyone in the room that much more tense. I stared at the tear as well, frightened as to what was coming. Was it the demon lord? His minions? My mind began to cycle through fearful ideas of what was about to appear. The boys! My heart almost stopped. Falling from the chair, landed on the table were for the 5 incubi brothers. They were piled up on another, having come through one at a time. However, as the last brother landed, the boys fell onto one side, toppling over the table and landing on the floor. The rebels around me stared at the fallen pile of incubi, confused and surprised as the terror in the air closed. The org man was the first to lower his sword.
What the hell?
Yep.
Who are they?
Careful, they could be the Demon Lord's men.
No, they're not. No. The rebels looked at me as I stood up, Diana falling and still protecting me, and I stared at the boys on the ground. They all looked dazed and a bit shell-shocked from what happened from falling. Twice in rapid succession. I almost couldn't believe it. They were here, right in front of me. My mind couldn't help but remember how I first met them. They had all been on the floor of my mansion, unconscious and wounded. Now they are in front of me in the demon world. I know them. I stared at the one I was meant to marry, seeing him slowly shake his head and rise from the ground. They came to rescue me. He came to rescue me. My heart became overjoyed and full of warmth and happiness. I was going to go home. Question was, how? At the sight of the boys kept at the demon's touching, a second terror opened above, causing everyone to look up. The wives. 4 women dropped down in the terror, somehow managed to fall into the arms of the incubi behind Sam. Twyla, she's so adorable.
Whoa, are you okay?
Norrin!
I gotcha, it's okay.
Eric!
Irene!
Love, I've got you.
James!
Whoa, are you alright?
I stared wide-eyed. Their wives came too? I watched as the boys and the girls finally planted themselves on the ground before looking around. As Sam spotted me, however, his eyes pointed in both surprise and anger. His gaze pinned itself to Diana, who stood protectively in front of me, and his eyes instantly became painted over in an almost harsh gold color.
You're fucking dead!
Ah ha ha! Within a blink, Sam and Diana vanished and reappeared against the wall behind me. As I turned to see what happened, I gasped at the sight. Sam was pinning Diana to a stone wall, crushing her neck, holding her high enough her feet were dangling above the floor.
I warned you, bitch! I will tear you to shreds!
Sam, stop! Sam! Before I could move, however, the guard jabbed the blunt end of his spear into one of Sam's knees, causing Sam to release Diana and buckle to his knees.
You mangy dog!
Settle. The guard quickly twirled his spear around and thrust it for his skewer, but missed as Sam fell back and laid him across the ground, clearing up the attacker, filled with almost a terrifying rage. The guard stepped forward and went for another stab at Sam. Fortunately, Sam pushed the weapon away from him and directed it to the side, causing the blade to clang against the ground. The guard quickly pulled back and thrust the spear forward again, but hit the floor again as Sam turned his body to the side. However, the guard wouldn't let Sam get up as he quickly continued to pull back and thrust his spear forward at Sam over and over, practically trapping him against the ground. I wanted to step in, but I was too afraid of the blinding speed of which the guard was jamming his spear at Sam. I didn't want to provoke him to stab me in a blind adrenaline rush. Ah ha ha. I looked to Diana, seeing her coughing, holding her neck while gasping for air. Her hand was glowing a soft purple tint, as if she was healing her neck from Sam's attack. Everyone else, however, had backed up away from the fighting pair, not wanting to become collateral damage from either of their attacks. Sam sat up. The guard retaliated with a lightning-fast response and kicked Sam back down, slamming the bottom of his foot into Sam's face to do so. However, before the guard could slam his spear down his target, Sam rolled out of the way and got up on his hands in a spinning handstand. I had never seen him fight like this. Even with Malik, Sam was still undoubtedly trained in combat even when he didn't have the upper hand. Sam flipped onto his feet and faced against the guard in a martial arts defense stance before a sudden barge. A spear thrust forced Sam to duck, lean, and dodge away from the guard. Unrelentingly, the guard thrust his spear as fast as the machine gun shot towards Sam, no longer looking to aim precisely but hoping to land at least once. At one particularly hard thrust, the guard leaned his body into the attack, but only managed to miss Sam by a mere centimeter, as Sam tilted to the side and let the spear cross over his chest without making contact. I looked to Diana, hoping that she would call off her guard, but she continued to stare at the floor, recuperating from Sam's attack. Stop, Sam. I had to stop this from becoming worse. I stepped forward, not entirely getting between the two fighters, and shouted to get both of their attentions. Stop it! Sam looked at me, suddenly obeying my voice as it rang through the room. The guard, however, leaned back for a second attack, uncaring of my command. Before the guard could follow through with his attack, a large snap echoed through the air, forcing everyone in the room, including me and Sam, to look over to see Diana glaring at her guard.
Enough!
Sam looked to me with eyes full of bloodlust, begging me silently to continue the fight. I glared back, trying to break through his rage to get to him to calm down. He reluctantly gritted his teeth before nodding and looked to Diana and her guard.
I'll forgive you for now, brute.
Forgive me? What makes you think that the one who needs forgiving is me?
I didn't do anything!
Then why is she here then? Sam!
Thank you, James. Sam and I turned to look at James, who was incredibly furious. By the look of it, the others were as well.
Look at her! Does she look like she's been hung during chains?
Sam looked at me, and as I met his gaze in almost perfect sync, I was indeed fine. Diana didn't hurt me. In fact, it had been the opposite. She wanted to protect me and send me home. The look in Sam's eyes, however, melted into one of longing and relief when he finally absorbed my appearance. It was like watching a beast instantly calm at the sight of its master. Without giving me a moment to breathe, he rushed over and wrapped me in his arms, burying his face into my shoulder. Sam?
I'm so happy you're safe.
Thank you. I'm your doofus. My heart melted as I heard him whisper in my ear. I gripped him tightly, returning the close embrace, and thankful that I could feel the one I loved once again in my arms. Sam tightened his grip on me, nuzzling into my shoulder. Kiss him. I gently moved my head and kissed over his cheek and neck, wanting to show him my affection and relief that he was in my arms again. Sam shuddered slightly at the touch of my lips and planted his own loving kiss on my neck. I fought back a rush of pleasure I felt from his lips touching my skin, managing to hide it. At last, Sam and I slowly broke away from each other. Sam looked over to Diana with a softer expression, but nonetheless a serious one.
Why is she here?
Diana pressed her lips together. I could see a small form of hesitation in her eyes as she looked to Sam and quickly formulated her answer.
Ask your father.
I felt a burst of angry energy flash beside me at her answer, which drew my attention back to Sam. His body became wrapped in a dark green aura as his eyes flashed gold once again.
What did you say?
Your father brought her here and placed a curse on her. She can't leave this world until she dies, or...
Another flash of energy, an aura surrounding Sam pulsated and was crackling like lightning around his form. Sam gritted his teeth and could tell rage was slowly taking over.
I'm gonna kill that old fuck!
Sam! I quickly placed my hand on his shoulder, knowing that he needed to calm down. We had a plan. He didn't need to be this angry right now. Sam looked over to me, calming down slightly at the sight of my worried face. We're going to kill him, Sam. Calm down. The aura around Sam slowly began to dwindle and die out as the golden glow in his eyes faded. I let out a small sigh of relief as I felt the muscles in his shoulders relax under my hand. As I looked down, Sam spoke up once again, and his voice sound drained from his sudden rage.
You got a plan to kill him?
Yes, we plan to kill him in 1 week's time.
1 week?
Thank you, Faye.
Where is this number coming from, Succubus?
We need to fully prepare ourselves for the final stage, which I'm certain will only take a couple of days. We've pinned him into a corner. The Demon Lord will fall.
That's rather bold to assume.
She's right, though. We can prepare everything in that time frame, right?
And if he does the same and attacks us before then?
He won't.
I watched as Diana walked over and cleared the table of the materials they had gathered for the gate spell, revealing a physical map of the abyssal plains. She pointed at the spot of the map, a peninsula surrounded by water labeled as the Decaying Sea.
We'll cast a barrier spell along the edge of the peninsula and around the castle. He and his army won't be able to move from that spot until we break it ourselves, which will be during the siege.
Where would we get the energy needed for that kind of spell?
We won't be using energy.
The other rebel demons in the room suddenly tensed up, staring at Diana in surprise. What was she going to do?
My lady, you're not suggesting...
The Demon Lord has shown how far he is willing to go to win this war. It's only fitting to show the extent we'll go to in response.
As much as I agree with you, this seems a little rash.
What are you guys talking about?
Thank you, Matthew.
Are they allowed to know?
I plan to put a barrier curse around the Demon Lord's castle and army. It's temporary, so it won't need the blood of 1,000 demons. But it will need the sacrifice of at least 1 demon life.
And I assume you'll be sacrificing one of my soldiers.
Is this our only option?
There are other options, but they will most likely take a lot of energy to pull off. It just depends on what we want to do. If we want to do this immediately, then the barrier curse is indeed the best option.
I'm not opposed to performing the curse. As rash as it is, it will make our lives easier in the long run.
You expect me to hand over one of my men? My soldiers joined the rebellion to kill the Demon Lord, not to get their throats slit before even seeing the final battle?
It's wrong, but can we really afford to spend any more energy? Diana already spent a lot trying to send a human back.
What is the other option?
The rabbit woman and the fairy moved towards the map and pointed at the peninsula.
We could form tall rock walls around the castle. Box them in. It will take a lot of our energy, but we can recover in that week period.
And not train?
And what will stop the Demon Lord from tearing down the walls?
I can imbue the walls with holy magic.
The incubi and I looked at him, all of us equally surprised. A demon with holy magic? How?
How the fuck did you get holy magic?
Shit.
How the fuck did you get holy magic? You look and smell like a demon.
The guard held up his wrapped hand, letting the beads around it jangle with the sudden motion.
I've had the ability to use holy magic ever since I was taken in by my lady's family. There's no doubt that I am a demon, but I can't recall how I gained this ability.
How is holy magic different than demon magic?
It's white magic. Unlike demon magic, holy magic isn't so finicky. Think of it as warding or dispelling magic. You can't bless air or anything that doesn't have physical form. but you can bless objects to fight back against other forms of magic.
How many? Oh my god. So much words on magic in that sentence.
If the walls were blessed with holy magic, the Demon Lord wouldn't be able to escape until we released him.
Why not just trap him forever?
That's idiotic. He would still be a threat regardless. Holy magic doesn't last forever. And stone will crumble eventually.
Mm-hmm.
He's right. We wouldn't be able to keep the walls up forever.
The situation became more and more complicated the more we discuss it. How are we going to go about this?
We can't just sit around and debate this forever. The longer we wait, the more we risk him striking back at us.
But is it worth killing someone to trap him?
When we finally strike, we will lose hundreds, if not thousands, of soldiers anyway. What difference will it make to lose one more life on top of this?
Soulless fuck.
We can still cage him in.
I bit my lip. It was really a tough decision. A curse or a trap. Which was better? Both had their prices, but we had to choose one. From the look of it, no one wanted to speak up, so I felt the urge to say something. Maybe I would be the one who would determine everything. But which method would be the best choice? Curse, 'cause with it's... We have to train if we're going to help them fight. Everyone in the room looked at me in surprise as I finally spoke up. The Demon Lord had trapped me here with the blood of 1,000 demons. It was only fair to trap him with the life of just one. Will the curse work with just one life?
Yes. He won't be able to escape because of its dark magic.
Are you sure this is...
Yes. He won't be able to escape.
Are you sure this is the best choice?
A monster like him won't stop if we box him in. We have to ensure that he won't be able to do anything while we prepare to fight back. Everyone nodded in most reluctance, while the others did with confidence. Diana, however, turned to the orc man with a stern face.
As for your reluctance, Sir Brute, we won't be using one of your men.
Well then, who would you use?
At that moment, Diana smirked and sending a familiar shiver down my spine. For a split second, I swore I saw a flash of gold cross her visible eyes as she replied to Matthew.
A little mongrel who had the nerve to electrocute me in my own castle.
The imp. I stared. There really was an imp in the castle. However, my mind released the question to focus on Diana's smirk. Something was off about Diana, and I couldn't put my finger on what it was. When I came to the demon world, I had barely recognized her and didn't expect her kindness. Now I was staring at her at that moment, again, recognized the woman who had attacked me in the human world. Diana shook her head before crossing her arms and looking directly at me.
So, since you'll be here for a while, we might as well give you names that you can use to refer to everyone here.
Are we getting human names?
Must we?
Diana rolled her eyes and gestured. Cool, Jada. And gestured to each demon, naming them on the fly.
For the sake of time, we'll use simple names. This is Rabbit, our magic advisor. Sergeant, commander of our armies. Shadow, leader of our assassins. And Faye, our nomadic force ambassador.
I don't like the name Rabbit. I'm gonna name her Lucy. Screw it. I'm naming her fucking Lucy.
Sergeant, I'm a commander, succubus. Shouldn't my name be commander?
It's easier on the tongue, though, to say sergeant.
My lady, what shall they call me?
Sarah. Diana looked at Sarah for a moment before turning towards me. A look from seriousness emanating from her eyes.
You may call him Zero. He is my personal guard, and he is always by my side.
The other demons and Sarah seemed to be surprised. Was Sarah his true demon name? Why would she give me his true name?
Are you sure?
Call him only if your life depends on it. Do not abuse this permission.
Her eyes seemed to burn as she gazed into mine, full of hard intent and warning. I mentally noted her seriousness as she ran a hand through her hair.
Well, now that we have a plan and introductions are out of the way, I believe we can end this meeting. We have a lot to accomplish in 1 week.
What about us? You don't expect us to sit around.
Thank you, Chris.
Actually, I do. You all don't belong on the battlefield.
Excuse me?
Now listen.
I will not take untrained and unarmed beings into a war zone.
Hold on. I interjected, stepping forward and crossing my arms at Diana. She seriously wasn't going to make us stay back while she fought the Demon Lord, was she? We can fight too. Diana squinted at me, pressing her lips together into a fine line. However, I meant what I said. We can fight too.
You expect me to trust that you can fight in a war?
Let me and my brothers train then. We're demons, for fuck's sake. We know how to fight.
The boys stared at Diana as she turned her head towards Sam. He was right, though. They knew how to train, so they knew how to fight. If they fought with the rebellion, there would be a better chance of winning this war.
You all realize this is a war, correct? You can die here.
We understand completely.
Yeah.
We understand too.
Diana could only stare at our group. As we challenged her proclamation, I wrapped my hand around my fiance's arm, frightened at the idea of participating in a war, but knowing that we needed all the strength we could muster to finish off the Demon Lord. This was the only way I could go home. Defeated, Diana sighed and rubbed her temples.
Very well. I can't exactly keep you here like prisoners, so it will be up to you if you choose to train for battle. However, I highly suggest just staying here and allowing us to handle it.
I nodded as did the others. This was really happening. We were going to kill the Demon Lord, and we had 1 week to either prepare for war or wait it out. Diana turned to me and looked down at my outfit. I knew I'd forgotten that I was still in my wedding dress until Diana pointed at my chest.
Lumen infere, bellum tabescere, serene.
I stared at her, unsure of what she was saying in Latin, until I felt the fabric around my body shift and change. I quickly looked down to see my wedding dress morph into an outfit that looked perfect for the demon world. My white top shifted into a long-sleeve, oversized tunic with a leather corset and vest, while the bottom part of my gown split and wrapped around my legs, forming into dark leggings. My shoes stretched into long knee-high boots.
Ooh, interesting outfit.
I blushed, getting used to the feel of the outfit. The corset wasn't tight, but it was still something new along with the rest of the garb. Sam looked at me up and down before glancing away, blushing a bit.
You look good.
Thank you, Sam. Thanks.
Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to head for the Demon Lord's castle.
Do you plan to shadow travel?
No, I have another method. Don't worry. I'll be back by morning.
Diana looked at Faye and nodded to them as they pressed their lips together in a tight line.
Please escort our guests to the remaining open rooms while I'm gone.
All right.
Set up.
Yes, my lady.
Seto walked toward Diana and followed her out of the room. The other demons, however, looked towards us.
I'll take you to your rooms then.
Thank you. We truly appreciate it.
Thanks, Faye. My mind for a moment wandered to Diana and remembered her almost evil smirk when we decided to perform the curse. What was she planning to do? Hopefully nothing truly sadistic. The walk to our room became a silent journey. Sam and I held hands, but for some reason there was no words to say between us. The entire situation sat in my mind and festered, plaguing my thoughts and causing me to remain speechless. This all seems so unreal and hard to imagine, let alone believe. How was this possible? I felt Sam gently squeeze my hand, causing me to look over at him. Was he feeling my anxiousness somehow?
Hey, you sure you're all right?
I stared at him a bit longer before replying. Save. Shh. Shit. Time to turn on the old phone. It's gonna be time to sit up. Gives me a break too. Time to go to the old Google. Because I have the thing up on my phone. Should we say yes or no? I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. I'll go to YouTube and see who's watching. Tube watching. Michaela. Do we say yes or no? Hold on. It's actually, hold on. Hold on. To be honest, hold on. Because I'm watching a playthrough right now. Well, because with it, she got the good ending for Sam. So that's why I'm doing that. Yeah, stop talking. Is this possible? Hold on. Okay. No. I wasn't alright. All of this was a muddled mess, and I couldn't help but worry. I had to have been obnoxious. It had to have been obvious anyway for Sam to notice and ask. Sam frowned a bit and released my hand to wrap his arm around my shoulders.
We'll get back.
Thank you. Will we? I couldn't deny the doubt that entered my mind and influenced my response, But Sam gave me a small shake, nodding.
We will.
I eventually let out a sigh and nodded as well. He was right. I needed to shake this feeling out of my mind. Sam and I were guided through the hallway until we finally reached our room, which happened to be the ambassador room I slept in before. It was good to know that I was going to a place I recognized. I sat on the bed and let out a sigh, feeling the worry of the entire situation sink and fade out of my mind. I wasn't alone, at least anymore, and Sam was willing to fight for me to return home. It was unexpected, but it was amazing to have Sam here. Sam looked around the room, taking in the space.
Fancy room?
Yeah, apparently it's an open ambassador's room. They let me sleep here when I came.
That was how long ago?
Like a day. Sam laughed and stuffed his hands in his pockets. What was so funny?
Oh, fuck. I forgot the time difference between this world and the human world.
Wait, time difference?
Yeah, time goes slower here and stuff. So, like, while you've been here a day, you've only been gone from the human world for 4 or 5 hours.
Wait, what? Wait, huh? I was only gone for 4 or 5 hours. How was that possible? Then again, I was in another plane, so it was somewhat understandable. My brain just couldn't wrap around it, so I held my head, staring at the floor in shock. Sam laughed again, walked over to me, sitting by my side, before he wrapped an arm around my shoulders in comfort.
At least we found you. If it weren't for Damien and Twilight, it would have taken us longer.
Huh? I nodded, relieved regardless on how I was found. While I couldn't get back there, there was a beacon of hope now, which replaced my previous worry and concern. Shit, I forgot I had school tomorrow. Fuck me. I don't go back to school until Thursday. I leaned my head on Sam's shoulder, feeling exhaustion hit me like a wave, but I didn't want to sleep just yet. I was with Sam, so I wished to stay up just a bit longer and be awake with him. Sam?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what to say. I just wanted to be awake a while longer. I looked up at him and turned my head down to look, patiently waiting for me to ask whatever Sumo was going to ask. Help me stay awake. If I wanted to stay awake longer, then Sam needed to help me do that. Sam looked down at me and turned our bodies gently to face another one.
What do you want me to do?
Anything. I didn't want our reunion to end for the day with us going to bed. A kiss, a hug, a conversation, anything was acceptable as long as I got to be awake that much longer. Hold on. Sam gently lifted my chin and lowered his head to kiss me, allowing me the choice to take his lips with mine. Post tomorrow. Actually, kind of. I don't know yet. Because with it, I don't know yet because with it, I'm gonna be busy or live stream. Probably that night I will stream. Just not during the day. Probably around like 6 or 7 I'll stream. Sam gently lifted my chin and had to kiss me, allowing me the chance to take his lips with mine, and by stopping A mere centimeter away, I took it and melted into a kiss, wrapping my arms around him. My heart became full of Sam. Feeling his heart beat against my chest, tasting his lips against my own, memories flooded back of us holding one another, and I began to mentally thank God for letting us be together again. Sam wrapped his arms around my waist, pulling me closer, but not taking us any further. The kiss was slow, intimate, and romantic in every form. So I have to kiss him again, wait patiently, tell Sam the truth. Okay. That was yet another thing I loved about him. He knew when to take things slow with me and when not to get deeper than that. He respected me, loved me, and wanted to protect me with his entire being. I was blessed to have him as mine and mine alone. As we pulled away at last, Sam let a smug grin paint his face. Anything not charged? So you won't get to hear anything and stuff with it. My headphones died, so yeah.
Well, I guess one good thing came out of this. I get to kick my old man's ass.
Or, never mind. I knew Sam hated his father, but was it really a good thing? In retrospect, yes, morally. Yes, morally, it was questionable. You really hate him, don't you? A smile on Sam's face slowly diminished into an angry expression, his eyes full of rage, but his mouth pressed into a fine line.
Yeah, I do.
Sam slowly stood back up and walked toward the fireplace, staring into it with his hands clenched into fists at his sides.
That bastard made me and my brothers miserable for years. We finally escaped, and then he grows the balls to try to steal the woman I love away from me.
Sam?
That bastard kills for fun. He burns kingdoms to the ground for not submitting to him, and murders hundreds just because he can. He has a fucking harem of people and replaces every one of them with prisoners of war by the handful.
Thank you for your opinion, Sam.
If he had gotten his hands on you, if he even touched you, I would have...
His fist tightened at his side, staring wide-eyed as blood little by little began to drip from crevices his fingers. I stood and rushed over, laying myself across his back, pressing my forehead into the back of his neck. Sam, it's okay.
Is it?
I looked up as Sam turned around to face me. He didn't touch me, as his hands were still wounded from his tight fist, but his expression dimmed a bit to look of sadness.
I would have never forgiven myself if you fell into his hands.
I stared deep into Sam's gaze, seeing the fear behind them. I was scared as well, but thankful to be saved by Seto and Diana. Someone above was watching over me carefully, and I thanked God for that. I wrapped my arms around Sam's neck and leaned my head to his, pressed my forehead to his own. I'm safe now. Diana and Seto saved me from that.
Thank God for that.
Sam wrapped his arms around me, fist still closed, and pulled me to him tightly. I could see him biting his lip, almost piercing the skin, but maintaining some form of control. I frowned, but allowed silence to pass between us. We will defeat the Demon Lord and go home. Sam nodded against my forehead, remaining calm. He had to let this pass. We had to move on and mentally prepare ourselves for a war. Sam would get his anger quelled, and we would be able to return home at last. We had to. Sam and I eventually pulled away from each other, locking our gazes lovingly.
Come on. We can't stay up all night.
Or we can. I know. Sam lifted his hand, which was now free of wounds and blood, and I guided me to bed, crawling in after I settled between the sheets. Sam and I embraced lovingly and let the darkness of the night take over, bringing us to a quiet slumber. The darkness of sleep was unusual. Was usually a friend of mine, only showing me nightmares on the rarest of occasions. The nightmares of me dying sent shivers down my body as I recalled it, but I knew that it was only a dream. Would I have one like that again? I hope not. Would I have no choice in the matter if another one came? That was another story. I knew it! I knew we'd have another one. I opened my eyes to find myself in the mouth of a cave that descended beneath the earth. Behind and above was a bright light where I could see my friends and family. However, I looked down the darkness. I caught a sight of Sam walking away further into the cave. Sam? He didn't answer. Sam continued forward, losing himself in the darkness. I instantly began to follow, forgetting about the light for a moment, before stepping and looking back. My family had a look of despair while my friends held each other, watching me with heartbroken faces. Was this some sort of message? Was I following Sam into a place my friends and family could not be in? Was this my future? I became torn. What was I going to do?
You are not worthy.
Who the hell is this? Michaela, who the hell is this? Is this some of the gods from Final Fantasy 15? Feel like you are not worthy of the ring? It's Morgan Freeman. What? All of a sudden, the darkness became full of fire, and the bare outline of Sam flashed before burning away of the light and the flames. He couldn't even let out a scream of pain as he instantly burned to ash. Sam!
Run! Run!
Diana? Diana's voice echoed through the air, but I was frozen in place, watching the flames rush at me to take me as well. If I ran back, my heart would be scared forever with the memory of flames taking my love away. If I stayed, I would die with Sam. I stood in the middle, unsure of what to do. As the flames took me, I woke up in a hot sweat. Gah! I gripped the cover, sat out staring at the far wall before looking around. My heart was beating wildly as sweat ran down my cheeks and the other side of my head. Another nightmare. This time, however, Sam woke up with me.
Whoa! Hey, what's wrong?
I looked at Sam to see him not burn or as ashes, but perfectly okay. I turned toward him and wrapped my arms around him tightly, now desperate not to let him go. Sam, despite being surprised, wrapped his arms around me and held me close. 2 nightmares, both leaving me and Sam engulfed in flames. I died in the first, he died in the second. What was I going to believe anymore? Yeah, I really do. Because it didn't sound like the Demon Lord. It was far from it. Sam rubbed my back gently and planted a kiss on my shoulder.
Hey, it's okay, alright? It was a stupid nightmare.
Yeah, stupid. I guess. But you died.
You know I can handle anything that comes my way.
Except for fire. Could he really? Was he strong? He was strong and he was fast, but he was powerful enough to withstand whatever had let loose those flames to swallow him. But was he powerful enough to withstand whatever had let loose those flames to swallow him whole? Okay. You are not worthy. What did that voice mean? Was Sam not worthy? How was Sam not worthy? What was he not worthy of? There's a million questions running through my mind, and none of them could be answered, at least not at that moment. I simply rested my head on Sam's chest and let him pull us back down to the bed to sleep.
Whatever happens, I'll always be here. All right?
Thank you, Sam. I nodded and closed my eyes, praying that I would not see the nightmare again. As fate was kind once more, I slept peacefully to the remainder of the night. I slowly woke from my sleep, feeling the aching of the morning consume and rush through my body relentlessly in an attempt to keep me contained in bed. I didn't mind. I was pressed against a warm chest, one whose arm I adored to be in. The nightmare plagued my thoughts, but my heart fluttered in reality, knowing that what I was feeling in the physical world was what I was supposed to care about. Nice. I looked up at Sam's sleeping face, giggling at the sight of his messy bed hair. Sam slowly woke from the sound of my laughter, blinking to sleep away to stare down at me. Morning. I smiled and kissed Sam on the lips to help rouse him, only to end up being pulled into a tight and loving embrace with my head buried in his shoulder.
Did you sleep okay?
The second time, yeah. Sam nodded in understanding against my shoulder as I wrapped my arms around him. I felt so warm and safe within the confines of his embrace that the thoughts of the nightmare had vanished from my mind. It would come back, but it was gone for now. Kiss him again? I pulled back a bit and kissed Sam once more, smiling happily and running my fingers along his back. Sam gently squeezed me and kissed me back, melting into the embrace between us. Morning kisses with Sam felt wonderful, and I didn't want to get up or pull away. I simply desired the relish of the feeling I had for Sam, and let him completely take over my thoughts.
Hey.
Yeah?
Since we're in the demon world, do you think that maybe...
What? I opened my eyes to look over his shoulder, trying to understand what he was insinuating. Then it finally came to me. I held my breath in realization. The demon marriage?
You don't have to decide right now, but before we go back, maybe think about it.
I wasn't sure what to say. My mind danced across the idea of binding my soul to Sam, but at what cost? I'll think about it. Sam nodded in understanding, kissing my shoulder. I knew it was something Sam really wanted, but it was something I was willing to go through. Sam gently loosened his embrace and pulled away to look at me with a tired smile.
I don't want to get up yet.
You have to. I laughed, knowing this was how Sam operated in the morning. He was definitely not a morning person, so seeing him curl up to me and ask permission to stay in bed was still an endearing sight that reminded me how much I loved him. My heart warmed as I smiled and kissed his forehead. Then we don't have to. We can sleep a little bit longer if we want. Sam smiled and closed his eyes, pulling me against his chest with a hearty chuckle.
Good. You can go eat later.
A peace was broken, unfortunately, by the sound of a knocking on our door. Sam and I simultaneously groaned. Our plan was ruined. Yep. Thank you, brothers.
Go away!
Sam, we brought breakfast.
We'll eat later!
Are you seriously going to argue with me?
Just let him in.
Come on, it's like 9 a.m.
Thank you, Irene. Now I was getting upset. I wanted to stay in bed, feeling Sam's arms around me for a lot longer. What's that so much as? Screw breakfast. We have like 3 more hours until noon.
Oh my god, just get up already. We're burning daylight here.
Sam and I whined, now irritated at our plan to sleep became ultimately impossible. However, we both understood that today was a new day and we had to start preparing to take on the Demon Lord. I slowly sat up in bed, yawning at Sam, burnily falling asleep. All right, come in. The door opened and poured the Incubi brothers and the wives carrying a plate of food. Each. James and Iridessa held out their 2 extra plates for me and Sam.
Thanks, Dessa.
You're welcome, Sparky.
Thank you, James.
Of course.
James and Iridessa moved away from us as we both looked down our plates. On them were fruit slices, bread, cheese, and some form of jerky I didn't recognize. It was probably safe knowing that the others were eating it as well. Sam, however, lowered his plate onto his lap and looked up at his brothers.
So, what's the plan?
Well, we should probably take the next couple of days to train properly. Since we're in Lilith Castle, we'll have access to training equipment.
Lilith Castle? This place has a name? The boys and Irene, Eric's wife, nodded in reply. Sam stuffed a stick of jerky in his mouth and began to chew on it as Damon began to explain.
The first succubus, Lilith, was exiled here after being cast out of Eden by the heavens. She became a demon and soon began to breed more incubi and succubi than the world could control.
Wait, Lilith as in Lilith from the Bible?
Yes. During her time here, she established a kingdom with this very castle at its heart.
It's a pretty castle indeed. I've never had the pleasure of coming here.
You're a demon, Irene, I think.
I'm not really a fan of it.
Of course. Sam swallowed a bite of the jerky in his mouth and licked his lip, joining the conversation.
Alright, so we train until we can't anymore.
Obviously, we'll need breaks in between, but we can't afford to let a day go by without intense training. We only have a week after all.
Yeah. Worry began to bubble in the back of my mind. Everyone was willing to step up and start training, but Eric was right. We only had a week to prepare for the Demon Lord. Will we be strong enough in time?
You fear too soon, child.
The dragon. It's a fire-being dragon. With its stubby arms. And long tail. Are you sure it's not T-Rex? One of those inflatable things? No, it's the dragon. Huh? I straightened on my back and looked around, hearing the voice of my dreams echo through the air. Everyone else was looking at me curiously, wondering why I spoke up.
Wait, what?
Did you say something?
I looked around at everyone, seeing their confused faces. Did they not hear the voice?
They cannot hear me, child.
Why is he talking to me? Why is he not talking to Sam? Dragon. I shook my head, rubbing it gently with a nervous laugh. Sorry, I thought I missed something. The confusion in everyone's faces dissipated as everyone got back to the topic on hand. One I couldn't remember or focus on. My thoughts went back to the voice, wondering how it was speaking to me and how I knew what I was thinking.
I am closer than you imagine.
Grandfather, what do you mean?
Be patient, child. The time for answers will come soon enough.
I would love to know who voiced this one, because with it, it's amazing. I grew more and more concerned and confused. What was this spirit talking about?
I am no mere spirit.
You are a dragon. Then what are you?
That I cannot tell you yet. When the time comes,
This was madly scary. A voice in my head was speaking to me, and I could only speak in the back of my thoughts. Without anyone knowing what was going on, I looked around to see everyone speaking to each other, but I couldn't focus on what they were saying. All I could focus on was the voice in my head.
Answers will come when the time is right. For now, I will bid you farewell.
Okay, bye. Wait!
Whoa, wait, what?
I didn't realize I spoke aloud enough to everyone look at me. I looked at Damon, wondering if he heard everything was going on in my head, but he seemed just confused. If not more so than the others.
You alright?
Tell them. Inside, they had to know what was going on. Well, I just heard this voice in my head.
Huh? A voice in your head? But I didn't hear any other voice but yours.
Did it sound like anyone you know?
I shook my head, remembering the sound of it. It was deep and echoing, masking of any relatable trace from it. For all I knew, it was some sort of illusionary creation of my own mind. Then again, if I created it, then Damon would have been able to hear it. I sighed and rubbed my head. It was some sort of deep voice telling me that to be patient and not to be afraid. It wouldn't tell me its name. I became worried about everyone thinking that I was crazy. I knew I wasn't, but I would definitely sound like it's someone who wasn't mentally there. Sam, however, wrapped an arm around me and hugged me to his side.
Well, whoever that voice is, it's right. There's nothing to be afraid of.
I wouldn't be too sure about that just yet.
Hi, Diana. Ooh, and Settle. Everyone in the room turned their heads to see Diana and Sarah Settle standing in the door. Diana stepped further into the room as Sarah stood at attention, watching her.
You five have been gone during the 10 years of this war. You do not seriously believe that you will be ready for this in a mere week, do you?
Diana seemed firm and serious. I could understand why, but a part of me felt a bit angry at that she shut down our pep talk. Sam glared at Diana.
And if we do?
Then it is a foolish mistake.
How so?
10 years of absence can be unkind to one's abilities.
To be fair, it has only been 2 years for us.
Regardless, when was the last time any of you actually fought in battle?
Silence consumed the room. She was right. However, we weren't willing to give up that easily. I stood and placed my plate on the bed behind me. Why does it matter? We're going to defeat the Demon Lord either way.
We will. But there is no reason to try and breed ideas of false hope that it will be easy. Too many lives have been lost in this war with the hope that they'll all survive. It's better to be realistic.
Okay. So killing the Killjoy. The tone of her voice echoed a heavy warning. I had this hair stuck in my needed eraser. There we go, got it. No doubt she had seen hundreds or thousands of deaths in the war firsthand, but now was not the idea to double ourselves. Sam stood up as well, standing at my side in defiance.
Fuck that. If you're right, then hope's the only thing we got.
Seto stepped up to Diana's side, giving Sam a blank stare in return for his mistress.
Hope can only take you so far. Do you truly believe it will help you defeat the Demon Lord?
I felt Sam take my hand and nod, affirming his words. I smiled and squeezed his hands, agreeing. Seto and Diana stared at us with Diana crossing her arms. Something was on Diana's mind as she stared at Sam just from looking in her eyes. What was it?
Can you say that with confidence?
I can. Want me to?
Not to derail the topic, but this is a waste of time. We should be preparing for war, not bickering about if we can or not.
A moment of silence passed through the room as Diana stared at Sam sternly. However, she was distracted, distanced from the conversation as she was stalling time to have her thoughts wander. What was keeping her real attention?
Well, I'm not going to argue about this. Believe what you wish.
Sam and I waited and watched as Diana lowered her arms to her side with a sigh.
However, we do have something to discuss.
There's the thoughts. Diana raised a hand through her hair and looked around the room, pressing her lips into a fine line.
So, about all of you participating in the war.
We need you to train, yeah. Everyone nodded in agreement to Diana's statement. While we weren't battle ready, we still needed to at least know how to defend ourselves. Diana, however, looked to me.
You, most of all.
Huh? Me? I was suddenly confused. How come I was the odd one out that had to be ready the most? The last thing I remembered about me training was that Diana was against the idea at all altogether. Diana sighed and rubbed her temple.
Apparently, there are guidelines to breaking this curse. Not only do we have to kill the Demon Lord, but you have to be nearby when it happens for the curse to even break.
That makes no sense. Where did you learn this?
Shadow. He spent the night trying to find alternative ways to break your curse. Unfortunately, we didn't find anything of the sort, but we found the guidelines to breaking it.
Well, it still makes no sense.
Even while it doesn't, it's still better to be safe than sorry. I don't want to kill him and then still have you stuck here because of an error.
I could only sigh and take it in, so I had to be there when the Demon Lord fell. Great. Diana waved her hand dismissively through the air, breaking my potential thoughts.
Anyway, we can't have you dying on the way there, and we can't monitor you when we're in battle. You should at least know how to defend yourself. That's why we've come up with a solution.
Huh? What solution?
Simple. The other rebel leaders and Sarah have agreed that if you'd like a trainer to enhance your abilities, you can train with one of them.
I stared, seeing Seto step forward with a nod.
Each of the leaders is proficient in a different area of magic and battle strategy, good enough for self-defense. I can't speak for the others, but I can assure you that with Sarah's skill and training methods, you will be well prepared by the time the siege arrives.
Seto nodded and bowed to me slightly. While I was flattered at the idea, did I really need a trainer? I knew Taekwondo, and I at least knew how to defend myself, demon or not. Then again, we were in the demon world where magic was the norm. What would the others teach me? Diana ran a hand through her hair, looking to the side as she listed off each leader and their skills.
Sergeant is a brute demon, bred from a nomadic tribe. He most likely teach you the ways of the brute demon, using our fists and speed to keep you alive. Shadow is, by definition, a shadow demon. So he'd probably teach you about dark magic, light manipulation, and assassination.
Ooh, that sounds fun.
Rabbit is a wild magic-based animal demon, using her animal-focused energy as her weapon. She'd probably teach you how to do the same. Faye? I am honestly not sure. I know they can change their size and use elemental magic as well, but to be honest, I do not know what they would teach you.
I want to do the assassination. I choose Shadow. Diana nodded. Shadow seemed very intelligent and knew the ins and outs of being sneaky and dodgy. It would definitely help in battle, not to get hit and maybe take enemies by surprise. With that, Diana turned on her heel and left the room.
Finish eating. Afterwards, you should start training.
Everyone in the room nodded their affirmation as Diana and Seto left.
Well, it looks like we'll be busy for the next couple of days.
This'll be fun.
Yeah.
Man, training's gonna suck.
It'll be worth it, though.
Damien's right.
As we all finished eating, everyone left to either train or do things on their own. I was left to start my own work, determined to be prepared for what was to come. Demon Lord wasn't going to win. I wouldn't let him. Choosing Shadow defied almost every part of my moral compass. He seemed like a fantastical psychopath, lacking of care for anyone but the war in himself. Still, I had to admit his personality made me curious about his abilities. After all, he was the one that almost sent me back home through Diana's shadow. As the memory of the void filled my thoughts, I began to try and dissect how it was done. Were Shadow's doorways here? Was Shadow just that powerful? How exactly was he able to do a person's shadow into a void through the world? Maybe that was the reason why I chose him as my trainer. My curiosity about his ability was pecking at me, and I needed to answer. Learning some of those abilities myself was just the icing on the cake. I was guided to ooh, I've never seen a library before. That's nice. I was guided to the library by a scout, most likely under orders, and found Shadow. But ending the stream. 5:22 now. See about when when I'm called for dinner. To the library by a scout, most likely under orders, and found Shadow reading through scrolls on the table near the fireplace. Upon me entering, Shadow looked over.
Ah, there you are. Come, sit.
Shadow motioned a hand towards one of the seats, almost submissively, as he continued to pore over what he was reading. I followed his directions, sat down in the chair, watching him. For a full minute, he said nothing. As I watched each line of the scrolls before him, occasionally he switched scrolls to read about the others had written down on them. The handwriting was in a hasty scribble of Latin. So there was no way for me to understand it. However, I began to feel a little agitated. Weren't we supposed to be training? Excuse me? I needed to get his attention. This was a little ridiculous. Was he not told that he was supposed to actually train me? Why would he expect me, though? Despite my statement, Shadow continued to ignore me and kept browsing through the scrolls on the table. Shadow? Still nothing. I was becoming more agitated at the silence. I decided to simply stand, and hopefully to catch attention. However, as I attempted to, I found myself unable to push off against the chair, like I was stuck to the seat. Huh? I looked down at the chair that I was assembling. It was a simple chair. How was I stuck? I wiggled back. I wiggled a bit in my seat. Nothing that I wasn't sitting on anything sticky nor anything kept me down physically. What the hell? I attempted to stand once more, unable to move any farther than a centimeter up from the seat before needing to sit back down.
Do you understand now, human?
Oh, shit! I looked up at Shadow. Seeing him continue to visually ignore me. Visually ignore me, but noticing a small smirk on his lips. Was he holding me down somehow?
When you can stand, we will begin.
What? My eyes widened. This was a test. This is an unfair trap of tests that I fell into. Now I had now I had to find my way out. I had to figure out how he was trapping me to the chair and stand. This was going to be an adventure and a half. I looked down and around my body on the seat, seeing my shadow beneath me. It was pretty obvious that he was using my shadow to hold me down. But the question was, how was I going to break its hold? It took a moment to let my thoughts dissect the problem. He was holding me by the shadow. He had to have been. It only made sense if someone made my shadow disappear, then this hold would vanish along with it. However, how was I going to do that? My shadow was beneath me, formed by the shape of my body and the firelights. Then it hit me. The firelights. I looked at the fireplace, seeing It burned brighter than the Pyrenees within its mouth. It illuminated the room and gave every person an object a shadow. As it stared into it, my plan became set. I smirked as I gripped the armrests and planted my feet onto the floor. I put the chair up. What? I pulled the chair up onto its legs, pushing me off the ground with my feet, and completely turned the chair around, facing away from it. My entire body became covered in shadow. But I knew my plan had worked. I could no longer feel a hold on me, keeping me to the chair. My shadow vanished in the new darkness around me. I quickly pushed up the chair and finally be able to stand. It seemed so freeing that to be able to stand again. I had been trapped in that chair. I felt my body standing up straight. Shadow let out an impressive Yay! I glared. Did he honestly think I was that little of me? Seriously? I had to stare at Shadow like he had 5 heads so he could turn to me. He smirked at my facial expression, causing me to fight back the urge to snap at him. I'll be right back. Coming! Ow. What? Okay. So, I was not